Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science. Now available for pre-order. Please do, if you haven't. I'm Joy Moore here with my co-author Ken Anderson, and today is Wednesday, January 14th, 2025. Hey, Kent.
Hey, Joy.
How's it going?
It's gotten busy fast, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it
like
came
this
in with
week and last week, everybody woke up.
Yeah, there's a lot going on after like that and especially when the holidays like cross over like 2 weeks and then you
Hmm.
get into this lull and you think, it's like bang.
Yeah, yeah. And then
So,
everybody like wakes up and you've got, I mean, every on every front, it's like super busy right
yeah.
now. So yeah,
Companies are changing staff.
yeah,
New policies are coming into play. It's
yeah,
just, yeah, it's about that time.
yeah. And we are 6 months and 1 week away from our book being published. So that is also picking up a little bit of pace too. So
6 months and 1 week. Oh, yeah. Who's
yeah, and the
counting?
ebook
Right.
will be available. Who's counting?
That guy.
Moi, that guy, this guy who's got two thumbs and's counting, me. But the other thing that's
Yeah.
been going on is a lot of news. I mean, so you had the Consumer Electronics Show, right, with Zitron
hmm I didn't
bringing some
listen.
hours and
Yeah.
hours of podcasting.
I've never been to CES. Have you?
Me, no. Mm-mm.
No, I've never. I mean, I've kind of had an adjacent reason to go, but not a real like business reason to go.
Right.
But they did. I don't even know how many hours of podcasting from the floor.
Like 20.
I didn't listen to all of them, but my favorite. I listened to the last episode
Right.
for the conclusion to see what I missed, and apparently we didn't miss much. And I love the fact that they're they all agreed that with Cory Doctorow's uh, posit that the best thing at CES this year was a wall adapter plug for the UK that
Right.
collapsed very efficiently, and so
Right.
it wouldn't poke a hole in your pocket or take up your whole suitcase.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
those things
so
are wall warts, that's for sure.
but that's it. Like
That's
they've run
way to
out
go,
of
big tech.
that's the best good idea. And that's kind of the antidote for the enshittification is let's find something that is just actually works. So
Right, right. It makes our lives easier. Yeah.
mhm.
And then we had ACS
Yeah, ACS
picking up a journal.
adopted a new orphan baby
Yeah.
journal.
Hmm.
The well, not a baby journal, this is a full-grown journal. Environmental Health Perspective has been around for decades. It's an excellent journal, and I know it well, but it got abandoned in terms of funding by the
Hmm.
government. It was one of the first truly open access journals
Right.
out there because it was government sponsored.
Yeah, and they probably
Um,
wanted like something crazy, like everybody having equitable access to a safe, healthy environment. And equity was, I think, if I recall right, that was kind of the beginning of the end for them because they want everybody to have a good environment.
right. Yeah.
It's insane.
So
We're in insane times.
yeah, no, I know ACS is going to do a great job, but I just have to say the irony of the American Chemical Society publishing
Environmental
environmental
health pers
health perspectives.
I know
You know,
it's yeah, strange bedfellows in insane times, I guess.
there's no chemicals, there's nothing wrong with chemicals.
Hmm.
Uh, I get it, but still.
And I have to just mention, hats off to Jessica Knurek for very
Oh,
very patiently explaining to people that fiber is a carbohydrate. That was so great. She got flamed because she was on a Trevor Noah interview, an interview with Trevor Noah, and she
uh-huh.
mentioned that it was on all this protein first kind of stuff, and everything coming out of RFK. She's like, well, that the way you get your fiber is through carbohydrates, and she's getting flamed. You don't know what you're talking about. You're obviously not a very smart nutritionist and all this stuff. She's like, no, it is. Fiber's a
Right.
carbohydrate. You look at your food label, it says carbohydrates 18 grams, fiber 4, because it's a subcategory of carbohydrates. And she's like, yeah, and she very patiently explains it to people in that great way she has. And I'm just like, chemicals aren't
She's,
bad, carbohydrates give you fiber. It's like it's complicated, people. You got to
yeah.
you got to do better research if you're doing your own.
Yeah, but what are they? And I listened to the Daily Show, where this morning where they were talking about RFK Jr. and his what is it? It's all about milk and meat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Milk meat. Milk
Milk
meat.
meat.
And then they actually went through, and I want to do this more in more detail because it seemed like at first glance there was more there, but they showed the upside down food pyramid. And they're like, well, you don't want to have too much, you want to have a lot of fruits because there's a tomato at the top, right?
Yeah.
And then but you don't want to have, but then at the bottom there's like a banana. And it's just all scatter plot. There's no sense to it at all. And you look, and I started to look at it, and I'm like, that actually doesn't, there's nothing in there that makes sense categorically. They're
Yeah.
just like doing whatever. They opened their fridge and said, Chat GPT, tell me what's in my fridge. And that's just crazy. They're just crazy
Well, they're
people.
just making stuff up to talk about, and to
Yeah,
pretend like they have some kind of a platform that has any intention when it doesn't. And nobody has ever paid attention to the food pyramid and
I
and
know.
and my plate or anything
It
like
was
that. And
retired
so
years ago.
so stop pretending like you're informing people and
Right,
and and you're going to change their minds. Why don't you focus on I don't know, science and
right, right,
medicine?
right. Let scientists do their job. But anywho, so then there's all sorts of other stuff. A lot going on out of Europe this week too.
Yes, I was do you ski? Do you like to go
I
skiing?
have been known to occasionally, but I don't really like it.
That's good. That's a good call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing less fun than skiing when you don't like it.
Yeah, the only place I've ever skied where I really enjoyed it is out west on
Hmm.
and it's like Brighton and Solitude in Utah and Snowbird in Utah because they have big wide open runs, and then Telluride in Colorado because they have huge. I mean, you could ski. You go to the top of some of the runs in Telluride and you ski for half an hour. But out
Yeah.
east, it's all icy, and you're done in like you're on the lift for 5 minutes, and then you're done with your run in a minute and a half, and then you have to go. It's just I need a
Yeah.
bet. I need a if I'm going to do a long run, I want a long slide.
Yeah.
But you do, right?
I hear you. Yeah. And so being down in Virginia, I miss being able to just like
Mm.
pop up to New Hampshire, Vermont, for
So
an
where would you?
afternoon to do
What's your
skiing.
resort of choice if you were up here?
Um,
Okemo or
Yeah, Okemo, that's a great one because it's super close.
yeah,
And then, all the big ones up in Maine
right.
are
Oh,
are really
Maine.
good. Yeah, you gotta take
Interesting.
some time to go to Maine. Um, but anyway, I was thinking about missing the snow as I was reading about the upcoming World Economic Forum in Davos.
Yeah, where Scott Galloway and his facelift are going to be going.
Oh, that's where he's revealing his facelift. Oh,
I think so.
oh my God, that's
He was
funny.
hiding out on the podcast this weekend, and they're like, "But he's going to Davos,
He's
and
going to
he's got to have to take the
Davos.
bandages off."
Yeah. Well, you know who else is going to be at Davos?
Mm.
Frontiers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have hosted an entire science house at Davos.
Talk about
They
the
will,
irony.
yes, they will run. I mean, it's just in their backyard. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Geneva or Lausanne or wherever they're based in. So, I mean, they
Right.
don't have to pay a lot for
Right. It's just a
transport, but
train
but they
ride.
are paying a lot for a full day of sessions dedicated to the technology frontier, examining how innovation can guide technological progress responsibly and at scale.
Of course. All the words that they don't really mean, and you can
Yeah,
that are
so
totally incompatible.
I mean, honestly, for a publisher who makes their money off of funder provided APCs
Right.
in the biggest advertising model you can get,
Right.
it's just beyond that
Yeah.
they are in the position to go have a meet and greet and
Right. Hot tub it with the Davos crowd. There's a
Yes.
picture for you. So speaking of other pictures, so we were talking about snow.
Uh-huh.
One thing you want to avoid is yellow snow.
Correct.
And then we saw something on the archive.
Yes, our friend,
Did you like that segue?
that was good. It took me a second, but we're talking about piss, Piss. Thanks to our good friend Mark Hansen, and his colleagues who posted a new preprint on archive. Um, and and I quote, in this article, we provide the first systematic analysis of a particular form of abuse of power by guest editors, endogeny, the practice of publishing articles in one's own special issue. So they went through the very academic process of looking at all these special issues that publishers like Frontiers and MDPI and many others are doing, and they did the mathy maths to say, oh, these people are publishing these papers to get more citations to make themselves more famous, more money,
Right. Or
etc.
because they have commercial interests or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the illustration of the factory farming of papers can
Hmm.
be run by anybody who wants to.
Right.
And so I just thought it was great that they um termed the
It came
phenomenon
piss.
piss.
Yeah.
And then they conclude, fortunately, piss can be solved by setting easily enforceable common sense policies. We provide the data and analyses needed for indexers and academic regulators to act,
Yep. Yep.
which makes total sense.
Which,
But except for, I don't know who these academic regulators
well, apparently they're
are.
not the people involved with STM. So because the other thing that came out, so the APE was this week,
Hmm.
and one of the big, I guess, big announcements was what's her name? Carolyn
Sutton.
Sutton. That's right, Caroline Sutton.
Hmm. Yeah.
I guess she announced their safeguarding scholarly communication report,
Yeah.
and
So
unveiled it.
she's the CEO, I think, or I don't
Yeah,
know what her job
yeah,
title is, but she runs STM, which is the biggest
international.
international organization of scholarly publishers, and is kind
Right.
of, it's considered the hub of collective thinking. It's not a regulatory body by any means. It's
No.
more in terms of supporting
Right.
their member
Right.
organizations.
Yeah, and most of the large publishers are in Europe, so it's based in Europe, and it was unveiled at a European publishing meeting, which APE I used to love, but I don't know that I could stomach it these days. But
What is
I
it? What does AP stand for?
academic publishing in Europe,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I love how like ape, and then I remember
Yeah.
the first time I saw goat was at the Frankfurt Book Fair. It was the greatest of all time for Muhammad Ali, and they had his book unveiled and everything. And I'm like, goat, ape, it's all these animals. But anyhow, so I looked at the report, and I'll write up an analysis of it next week. But it's not common sense. It's
Yeah.
not
So
common
let's
sense.
yeah, let's just back up for a second. So
Yeah,
this report that was presented at this conference to
right,
great fanfare, it
right.
was commissioned with what the research consulting firm, and they covered uh baker's dozen
Right,
of interviewers,
right. They talk to
interviewees.
people, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And so then it was unveiled as the new Safeguarding Scholarly Communication Report.
right. And my initial take on it is it's just wallpapering over the core problems around financial incentives for OA and shitification and more AI slop. Because when you have authors paying editors undisclosed amounts of money from undisclosed sources, maybe that would be something to address if you wanted to safeguard scholarly communication in a common sense manner. Maybe. But I'll write it up
It's
next week.
Yeah,
So,
but also especially if you are it's one thing for academics to call out problems in scholarly publishing. They're
hmm,
looking at it from their vantage point where
right,
we want the ecosystem to be healthier for us to swim in because this
right,
is our swimming pool,
right,
right? But for a publishing organization to not talk at all
hmm,
about the economic incentives that are driving the slop
yeah, or
is
the
just
technological
or
incentives.
and technological incentive. It's just yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and I mean
beyond.
the contradictions just jump out. So they say one approach is to ensure peer review, but they don't use the word preprint anywhere. So they don't condemn a practice that doesn't ensure peer review.
Hmm.
And then they advocate using more AI to fight AI, which is
All right.
hilarious. And I will put in the show notes, there's a really great draft paper that just came out about how AI destroys trust and
Mm,
institutions.
yeah.
And it's really, really important, and I'm going to try to write that one up too. But, publishers rely on trust and authority for their epistemic reason for being, right? That's why they're there. And if you are not, I just don't think these are serious people. So let's talk about serious middlemen and how to make the most of the middle going
Hmm.
forward.
That sounds good. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's talk about making the most of the middle. And we
Hmm.
want to talk about this from a few angles. So it might be a little messy, so bear with us. We're kind of exploring the area ourselves.
Hmm.
But it's really about intermediaries in the attention economy and the whole idea that there was supposed to be this disintermediation, but I think it was just re-intermediation with people with different organizations and platforms with different incentives. And one of the people who observed this was Jonathan Rauch, who wrote in his book in 2021, The Constitution of Knowledge, that without middlemen, basically, there's no marketplace of ideas. There are only cults warring and splintering and individuals running around making noise. And so we wanted to talk about some of the middlemen who were helping researchers, practitioners, society members, patients, educators, and the public through an uncertain time and doing a good job, and then some that maybe want to rethink their position.
Hmm.
So, because we've had publishers, as we've just mentioned with that report, I think that the STM report is sort of a signal of abdication.
Yeah, it's just like, well, this is what we have,
Hmm.
and we're just gonna throw more money at more bad, as
Right.
opposed to there's no stance that says what we what we should do right now
There's no
or what we could do.
reorientation.
There's no reorientation.
It's like
It's
we're on
just
a good course.
we're on
Yeah,
this course. We're just along for the ride.
we're gonna
And
go
so,
faster and harder, and
yeah.
we're gonna
Yeah.
harden the infrastructure, which is the. I'm sorry,
What does
but
that even mean,
I know
honestly?
it's just
What?
empty macho talk. I mean, we're going to harden the infrastructure. What, you're painting the house? So you got another coat of latex on it? I mean, it's so
No,
dumb. But
no, what it means is they're hiring more people and they're investing in more computers and machines and things like
right,
that. I mean, that's
right,
what it is. It's an
yeah,
investment strategy. It has
right.
nothing to do
It's
with
like that
changing
circular lending of
behavior.
OpenAI.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because we've abdicated, though, I think there's been a vacuum, and
Hmm.
we've now seen that that vacuum is filled by grifters, liars, assholes,
Hmm.
people who are trying to rip everybody off and extract our attention for their own purposes. But there are some good ones. We wanted to start by recognizing some that we admire, right?
Let's start with the good ones. Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to take the first one?
Um, yeah, so I think the American College of Physicians is a great example of a of of an organization, a society that's focused on their members with a clear goal, and they're not going to be distracted by any outside, nonsense. And so,
Mhm.
um, they have, with Christine Lane, it's that as the editor in chief of the Journal, who's been in the spotlight. She stood up to RFK Jr.
With full
On
support of her
right
organization.
within the scope of her just doing her job. I did
Hmm.
my job. I did not agree with you. I am right. You are wrong. Period.
Hmm.
Love it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they are like as an organization, they're being more vocal, and they are calling things out. Um, they've been very focused on their community and they're staying true to their members because that's their job. They are
Hmm.
fulfilling their mission. They're a mission-driven organization and they're doing a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other one we wanted to spotlight is the American Academy of Pediatrics, which,
Yeah.
takes me back, folks, to early days. But that's an organization that I've loved forever, and they have really stood out as an unrelenting force for good in this era. They're intermediaries between bad policy and children, and they are
Yeah.
not taking it. They're like, you're not messing with our kids. We're going to protect the kids. We're going to make sure they grow up healthy. We're going to
Mhm.
grow up without disease. They're going to have every chance to succeed in life. And pediatricians may look kindly, and they're in Norman Rockwell paintings, and it's all homespun goodness. But you mess with a pediatrician, and no, they're not having it. So they've been great in the middle of RFK Jr. and his attempts to ruin children's health.
Mhm.
They've been great in standing up for prevention and treatment and
And I
for
think and I think
various things and winning
yeah,
court cases.
right, but I wanted to pause on the fact that they are invested both in prevention and treatment.
Right,
And so, what's going on with reducing vaccine availability is affecting them both ways.
right.
They are less able to prevent potentially,
Yeah.
but then they are also going to need to treat the effects of it.
Yeah, so because they're mission driven and I think very excellent people in general, they want to prevent disease.
Yeah.
But he's now going to make them have to treat more disease, and they're having to treat those measles cases, and they're having to trace those measles outbreaks, and they're having
Hmm.
to deal with the kid who maybe dies from measles and having to talk to the parents. And
Hmm.
that is something they didn't want to do.
Right.
They
And I
wanted to
don't know,
prevent it.
and there aren't very many other scientific societies who occupy that space. Most of them are in different sections of the continuum between basic research and clinical practice.
Yeah, I
And
think
so they,
cardiologists and
yeah.
emergency physicians kind of occupy that space too, and American
Hmm.
diabetes, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's, I think, but I think this hits the earliest stages of life
Hmm.
when patients are the most vulnerable. I mean, if you're arguing with an adult who, doesn't want to stop eating ice cream, that's a different
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
especially Rocky
Well,
Road, I'm just telling you, people, it's irresistible. But
um,
anyhow, but good
and
for
then
them,
on
and that's a hero.
yeah, and then on the other end of the spectrum, kudos for the American Geriatric Society as well,
Mm, yep.
because they are understanding their population and what is happening, and the risks that are increasing for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So one of the things for publishers we wanted to talk about is some of the tools that are potentially usable to improve this space in the middle, right? Because
Hmm.
we've kind of left it, and there's a vacuum there, and we aren't fulfilling our intermediary role. And you had a great essay about the velvet rope, right?
Hmm.
And access controls as a tool to re-intermediate for the benefits of scholarship and science, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I keep coming back to this. I talked about it, when we did our first podcast with Nikesh, and
Mm,
I can't get away from it. It's just part of what I've been doing for the last 30 years is figuring out ways of doing access control. And it is such a useful tool.
hmm
Um, and the abandonment of access control in favor of just making things open, for me, is such an obvious hole that could be filled
Right.
easily. We don't need to change the rules. We don't need to tell everybody to do the same thing. We don't need to charge this or not charge that. But if you just use the access control toolkit that you have, and most of them do within your platforms, and just be a little creative with it, you can
Mhm.
really make some big changes in user behavior.
Right. And
And
you're
that,
also
and
not surrendering to the attention economy,
right,
lock,
right.
stock, and barrel, right?
Yeah, well, you might learn that people aren't paying as much attention to your stuff as you thought they would, and then that's just that's the pill that you need to swallow, quite
Right.
frankly.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I remember that reminds me of the one of the earliest stories. I think I've told this. I know I've told this before. I don't know if I've told you though. But one of the editors of Pediatrics, when we first put out the Pediatrics electronic pages, it was a free section online, and so his take on it was that it was going to be, have huge usage because it was free. And so
Hmm.
he published did all the proper things with, getting going a paper that research he had done, getting through peer review and having a handling editor deal with it. So he was, recused and all that. But he got it he published, they decided to publish on the electronic pages. And so we were at an editorial meeting up in Burlington, Vermont, and he goes, "So, Kent, I'll put you on the spot. How many downloads does my paper have in electronic pages? I want to show him how effective this is." And I looked it up and I said, "Zero?"
Womp
Like,
womp
well,
womp.
yeah. Well, I guess maybe it's not that good a paper. I'm like, yeah, well, see, but that's the pill he was immediately willing to swallow. It's like, well, it wasn't my best work anyhow, so it's like,
Right, and that
and
and
not that
that that
relevant.
that's such a good example of we've learned these lessons, right? It's like if you make it free, everyone's going to use it, or maybe they won't, or let's count the people who use it, or it's just like stop it. It's either going to get used or it's not going to get used. And if it's going to get used by people who really need it, they're going to take the time to give you their email address, to log in,
Right.
to create an account. We don't need to tiptoe around this anymore because we know the counter to that is people are using scientific papers for all sorts of other reasons on other platforms. They're monetizing this content in other ways.
hmm
And so this FOMO of, if I put up a hurdle that is going to ask people to log in, then maybe my content isn't going to get used. Well, the opposite is happening. Your content's getting used in ways that you don't control, and um, you're not making any money from. So
Well,
why
but I
not?
also think, yeah, I totally agree. But I think it also gets back to our interview with Rick Anderson last week, where the loose definition of open access has been a major feeder of this. Because I remember when I was at New England Journal of Medicine, early days of open access, and we said, okay, you want to make it free? We'll put in a registration step. And we got
Mhm.
flamed because that wasn't free enough. You have to
Right.
make it so that
Yeah, it's
it's not
got,
just about not paying, it's about not having information about the users. And it's about
yeah,
then making it even repurposable.
right.
So making it basically, just, and then you look to today where you
Hmm.
have AI systems gobbling all this stuff up, shutting down open access sites because they're crawling them, making everybody adopt Cloudflare.
Hmm.
And it's just, there are other, so it's interesting to think about how Cloudflare has become a velvet rope
Hmm.
itself, right? I hadn't really thought about it that way, but now there's because sites need to vet that the traffic is legitimate and not scrapers and not
Yeah.
bots. That's where we are now. So your platform has a velvet rope that's just testing that these aren't totally terrible. So why not
Hmm.
just make it one more step where it's
Just, yeah, tighten it up a little bit more. you
Yeah, because
know?
open
And
access sabotaged itself on that front.
mhm.
You can't be because all the servers are dying.
Right.
You're killing the servers.
And you know what? I totally get it. Nobody likes to work on access control. It's messy. There's a lot of integrations. There's a lot of like moving parts. It's glitchy. It's hard. It takes a lot of human people to put together and to design and implement an access control system that is going to suit your business needs. And then you also need human people to manage it going forward. And I can totally understand why it's so much easier just like to make things open, but investing in AI and focusing your tech investment in publishing in kind of open-ended future while you have a toolkit already in-house that you could just tighten up, um, it makes no sense to me.
Well, and also when you contemplate that the AI is an intermediary itself and is
Hmm.
trying to take your intermediation away of your own content. I mean, you
Hmm.
look at open evidence, for instance, for JAMA and NEJM and the other journals participating, is trying to take the intermediation away from those journals. And
Totally.
they're now
They're
part and parcel with their own, they're like playing with fire.
right. But they do require a national provider
Identity.
identification
Yeah.
number in order to play. And
Yeah.
so they are using the open access and licensed or whatever content
Right.
in order to serve whatever to
They
their
have their own
users.
velvet rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the highest level.
Yeah.
And those MPIs are managed by CMS that reports to Dr. Oz. So that's, again, I can't say it enough. It's really weird. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the attention economy more, and we'll get to
Hmm.
LLMs. But one thing that this conversation brought back, reminded me of, is the disparagement of the fairness doctrine.
Hmm.
And this was brought up back in, I think, the first Trump administration, and how, social media was demonstrated to be so toxic during that time, and people were in tech. And I remember Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway talking about the fairness doctrine and kind of dismissing it in a very high-handed manner that was surprising given how usually they tackle things. But I think
Hmm.
they had a misunderstanding of its history and its salutary effects. So I revisited, and I wrote something back in the day, and I wanted to revisit it. So what I wrote was the fairness doctrine emerged in an era of radio and television broadcasts. Over-the-air broadcast led to controversies in the 1930s about one-sided opinions and public attacks made over the airwaves, poisoning the public discourse and spreading misinformation. So the fairness doctrine was established, which basically says you have to give equal time if you're going to
Hmm.
be using the electromagnetic spectrum in the United States, because that's what the FCC governs. It's not television and radio, it's the electromagnetic spectrum. Section 230 has just kicked them out of governing the internet. You have to be fair, and that's a subjective thing that somebody could allege and assert in a lawsuit, that you're not being
Hmm.
fair, and you have to be honest. And those things in a regulatory framework allow to ideas to those kinds of issues to be contested, right? Very openly
Right.
and very
Hmm.
publicly using the legal system. So if somebody, but in 1987 it was revoked, and soon after you had Fox News, and everything has spun out of that. So I
Hmm.
think, the gentle regulation of saying, well, you have to give, if you're going to have a point of view, you have to give the other side a chance to speak their mind if you're going to use our airwaves or our electromagnetic spectrum.
Hmm.
You have to be fair and you have to be honest.
Hmm.
And if you're not, we're going to not allow you to use the electromagnetic spectrum. I think
Right.
that would be really an interesting position for a future FCC to take. And
Hmm.
Section 230, we both listened to, but you pointed out to me that interview on Kara Swisher's podcast with Imran Ahmed, right?
Hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so he's oh, I can't remember off the top of my head the name of his organization, but he's basically it's the great name because it's just
Well,
exactly what it means.
he's been put on the list of people who are going to be deported because
Right.
they're standing up for because they're part of the censorship
Right.
police,
So
censorship
he,
state.
yes, he's been working in this space for a number of years, and it's basically against online defamation and hate speech.
Hmm.
And he was in cahoots with the previous Trump administration because they were agreeing with their stances, and now he's on the flip side, and
Right.
so they're threatening to deport him because, and his point is that they just keep changing the rules of or the moving the goalpost of what what is censorship and what is defamation,
Right, because they can.
and
There's no regulatory.
right. There's well now they are the regulatory
Right.
and so
Yeah.
and so now they've decided. But I really recommend this episode. Everyone should listen to it. It's Kara Swisher on from the other day with Imran Ahmed. Um, but it's basically the the big takeaways related to what we do is lack of rules let people make up their own rules.
Hmm.
And so in what we do between customers and content, who's setting the rules, and the rules are always changing. And then the abdication of responsibility has created this vacuum that's been filled by the people who are putting money into the system and taking money out of the system. So that's why we're seeing funders calling the shots on how
Hmm.
things get published and uh, things like that.
Yep. And then we have the most recent middleman, which are the LLMs and the generative AI systems. And those are now mediating the knowledge economy in a really big and bad way. They're unreliable. They are causing harms as predicted. We're seeing more and more lawsuits. Gary Marcus had a great essay recently about how, clammy Sam Altman and his
Mm-hmm.
reputation is now in tatters. Basically, he was the wunderkind for a hot minute, and now everybody's like, this guy is
Yeah.
kind of sleazy and or questionable. So, and then how a lot of the sadly a lot of the predictions about there being lawsuits for harms
Mhm.
would emerge from these systems and how they'd prove unreliable and open to abuse. Those are all happening as well. And so I think, with all of these types of things going on and the reluctance of STM to come out with really reasonable common sense statements about where publishers belong in this system, we have to
Mhm.
recognize that regulation actually can make things more open
Mhm.
because you can what the rules are and you can contest them openly in a democratic society in a
Yeah.
democratic way. Lacking that around LLMs and social media platforms and open access with no disclosure about who's paying how much to put stuff out there, you don't have any openness. You have black boxes. You
Mhm.
have hidden forces. You have might makes right. And we used to know who was responsible for content decisions. We had mastheads that we would put inside publications to say, here's the publisher, here's how you
Mhm.
contact us. We don't know who's responsible for that preprint on MedArchive. We don't know who is responsible for, making the decision to let it be posted. Who's accountable for that self-harm AI incident? Because the AI is so tangled and unpredictable that the path to accountability is absolutely invisible. It's lost.
Mhm.
So, and this is where that essay that Gary Marcus just surfaced from two BU professors, law professors, comes in because they talk about how AI destroys institutions. And he mentions how they didn't come to that conclusion. They didn't anticipate coming to that conclusion when they started their work together on this. They were going to be
Mhm.
proponents of AI, And
Yeah.
then they started to actually write it up and think about it, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is totally destructive. These are anathema to the kinds of evolution, transparency, cooperation, and accountability that give vital institutions their purpose and sustainability. In short, current AI systems are a death sentence for civic institutions and should be treated as such." And that's I so we've got unregulated media. LLMs are
Mhm.
unregulated media, people.
Yeah.
They are bad things to have in the middle of anything,
Well,
and they're
and
not
and
accountable.
they are particularly bad for scientific information in ways that I'm not seeing other people talk about. So, for example, the other day I was listening to a podcast and they were using Perplexity to do some research on scientific papers
Hmm.
as just a shortcut, right? Like, just help me,
Right.
like, let.
Yeah, I don't have that
And
much time. I got 5 minutes.
right. And then
Yeah.
the user realized, oh, there's hallucinations in these Perplexity results, so I need to go back and carefully read the papers, and what the paper said is not what Perplexity synthesized for me. And so
Hmm.
if I had just gone with Perplexity, I would have come to the opposite conclusion of what I actually learned by reading the papers myself.
Hmm.
And so that's where the hidden costs of that, multiply that by however gazillion many user sessions are hitting the scientific literature via AI systems, and it's more of death by a thousand cuts,
Hmm.
in little and unmeasurable ways, that we know that there's no reason for hallucinations to be going on top of scientific information. A scientist can read another scientist's paper and know whether or not they need it, period.
Right.
But taken together, there are going to be outsized harms that we won't be able to measure for a very long time
Hmm.
by people creating opinions and platforms and making claims on top of hallucinated claims. That's going to take a while. The consumer harms from AI systems we can see, and they're terrible in real time, right?
Hmm.
Like that people are hurting themselves or they're going crazy or lots of awful stuff. The back end, though, on the scientific information use within AIs, I think is going to be a much bigger snowball that's going to turn into a avalanche.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the brand damage, right? Because I think that some to me the big brands like JAMA and AnyJam playing with fire like this is hurting their brands. I do.
I,
I
yes, but to what end, right?
right.
Who
Why would
who?
you do that?
Well, it's not like the public really cared about Gemma and Needham before, and
No, I'm not
it's
saying the
not like
public.
they're
I
right, but
think
they're
that I think over time it's more and more. I mean, what didn't take me long to find problems with them. Other people are starting to find problems with their integrations.
yeah,
And, getting in bed with, you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. It's
yeah,
kind of a problem for these, stellar brands. So I think, but that gets to the trust of the middle, right?
right.
So can you trust the middle like you
Well, and I
want to
think I
because
think
these systems are meddling around with the content?
right, and I think that's why you and I both had such visceral reactions to Jama and Nijam being
Hmm.
in cahoots with open evidence. It's that we trust them as the middlemen,
Right.
and this is they're taking their brand. It's not even about the content, but it's about the brand perception
Right.
to a system that is should not be used at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, the bottom line is if you want to make the most of the middle, and if scientific and scholarly publishers want to do it, be more like some of these organizations that are being very careful, that are really looking after their stakeholders, that are worried about the truth and worried about the effects of what they're doing and not being fast followers, not adopting technology to get into a technology war, and that there
Mhm.
are other approaches we need to think about, and that a more regulated information space in the middle is not a bad thing, and you can do that with a velvet rope. You can
Mhm.
do that with not adopting black box technologies. You can do it by disclosing who's paying what for open access articles. You can do it by being a publishing organization that takes stronger common sense stances oriented toward a future that doesn't allow the kinds of abuses that we've seen over the last decade. So be better in the middle.
Be better in the middle. And you know what? Honestly, it's cheaper. Just
Yeah.
use what you have. You don't need
Yep.
to invest in a lot of new nonsense.
Yep. All right. So that was our little exploration of making the most of the middle. Are you ready to move on to discoveries of the week?
I am.
All right. Who wants to kick off?
I'll go first because we were talking, this came up the other day. I don't know
It
why
did.
well, we were talking about some stupid stuff and we got onto the topic of dum-dums.
Yep.
Those and they are like they're like the ferns, the dinosaur, no, more like ferns and cockroaches of the candy industry, right? Like they've been around forever.
Right.
And nobody
They
really
pop up at the
likes.
least when you
Yeah,
least expect them.
they're just there, but everybody knows what it is. So anyway, I forgot why we were talking about dum-dums or the pass out dum-dums for dum-dums. Um, but I and so I was thinking about the flavors because they do have weird flavors.
Hmm.
And so there's like the standard ones, but then there is the mystery flavor. And that's what
Oh,
I was trying.
right.
It has question marks on the
That's right. I
wrapper.
forgot about that one.
Yeah. So what is the mystery flavor? Well, I got to the bottom of it.
Oh, mystery solved.
It's so smart. These people are so smart. It's the result of the end of one batch mixing with the next batch rather than stopping production to clean machines in between flavors.
They just let
It
it
is the
transition.
literal slop of the Dum Dum factory. But
Dum dum slop.
right, and then they brand it mystery flavored.
I love it. I love it. It's interesting though because back when I was cycling a lot, it was clear that like the Gatorade and Powerade
Hmm.
people
Yeah.
had made their flavor verticals work. So if I had a half bottle of like blue ice Gatorade and a half bottle of orange, you could mix them and it would taste good.
Yeah.
But if you mixed the blue ice Gatorade with the orange Powerade, it would not taste good. There was
Yeah.
some discord between those two, and so it's just interesting how you have these flavor. I mean, the whole flavoring industry is fascinating to me. But so they must have a flavor vertical that makes it so the mystery is still good, even though the transition may be unexpected. So
I
I
don't
love
know.
it.
I don't think they're certifying that the mystery is good. They're just saying this is what we got between cleaning
Enjoy.
the machines. Good luck to you.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That is a great discovery. I love it. So mine is also food related. So I got approached. It's Girl Scout cookie season,
Hmm.
and I got approached to buy some Girl Scout cookies, and I was very excited because they had what to me appeared to be a new flavor, which was toffee. But then I later realized I'd missed out, and I need to go and find their real new flavor, which is called Explore Mores.
Explore more.
And it's like I mentioned Rocky Road ice cream before. It's like Rocky Road ice cream cookies. So it's got chocolate. It's a chocolate cookie with marshmallow injected and toasted almond creme. So sounds delightful. But that's my
It
discovery of the
does.
week. And
But
I'm going to
is
be
it?
hunting it down over the next month at the grocery
Yeah.
store tables that with the Girl Scouts selling them and all that.
Yeah,
So
you might need to stock up and get them. But I love the Girl Scout cookie time. Like this is another like fascinating business.
hmm
It's a huge industry the multi-level marketing that goes into this, the volunteers and the indirect rewards for the people who are the sales force
Oh
is
yeah.
fascinating.
Oh yeah, the little Girl Scout I bought from, I had to get him from her mom's car was outside of the School of Rock when I was leaving because I bought it from a student there, and so I rolled my window down, I paid by Venmo. I asked the Girl Scout, "Are you going to get a did you get a prize? Are you going to get a prize for this?" She said, "Well, I did last year." And the mom's like
Uh,
frantic, and she's like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it! I picked up 2,000 boxes of Girl Scout cookies at the warehouse. It was crazy there." So I mean, it's a whole scene during this time of year, and I'm so glad I'm past that stage of life.
I
But
I I did that with my girls, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just buy you an iPod. Like that'd be easier.
yeah, but it's so it really inculcates kind of a capitalistic drive
Yeah.
which I don't disagree with. I think it's kind of cool to watch them like
Hmm.
see how to sell and they interact with people and they collect money and they
Yeah.
they give people they make people happy by providing them things that they want and it's like that's okay,
And their
you know.
cookies are good.
And the cookies are good. Yeah, I mean they're little. The boxes are could be a little
They
fuller, but
No, that's part of the whole that's part
I
of the
know.
genius of it. Yeah, then you
I
gotta
know.
it's easier to buy too. All right, well,
All
I'll
right,
have to
so
look for that one.
yeah, Explore More's. That's the new Girl Scout cookie flavor. So watch for it coming up. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. And as always, let us know what you think. You can keep up with developments at the Geyser, and we're very busy there right now, where you can subscribe to support our efforts. We'd appreciate it. Finally, you can reach us at disruptedscience@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.